The Pie, thank you so much for coming on the right note, but I feel like I don't really want to thank you because after hearing that song, White Walls and Promises, I feel like you put your hand into my chest and you ripped out my heart. Because
I'm so sorry.
just so emotional, but beautiful. I want
Yeah.
music to make me feel something, and really, really did. So thank you for playing that. That song.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Tell me about the song.
Okay, so yeah, the song tends to bring people to tears. It's not, what I set out to do, but it seems to be what happens with that song. Obviously, it's quite a personal story of being a single young mother and in a relationship that didn't necessarily work out, and just trying to navigate your way through that with a child has been, quite a big learning experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
How come you're writing about it now, though?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because obviously my son's almost 16. I think it just was such a big relationship and such a big time in my life that I just was unable to write about it. I think some things are just a little bit too personal, and I just wasn't able to go there at all until just recently. Yeah.
Wow. This EP that you have coming out, it's called Sad Girl Theory.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Sounds like it's going to be a pretty emotional ride.
Yeah, it is a pretty emotional. I think that song, White Walls and Promises, is probably the most emotional as far as it really taps into something quite sad. I think there's a lot of other tracks on the EP that deal with sadness and relationship difficulties, but they're sort of wrapped up in more like little pop hooks and stuff. So it's, I like to try and write something that really means something and then wrap it up in something that's a bit pretty so people will digest it a bit more easily. So it's not like that song, White Walls and Promises. I think if I put a track out, 5 tracks of that on an EP, it would just be like people would need to go to a therapist or something.
It will be very therapeutic, maybe.
Yeah.
Bit of a cry fest,
Yeah,
perhaps.
bit of a cry fest.
That's good. I like a good cry fest.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm on board. And we saw you playing there with Courtney on drums.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I mean, I feel when I'm watching it, you guys play together. It's like you've been together for years.
Yeah.
But I believe that is not the case.
That is not the case. We're pretty new friends, actually. Last year, I sort of went through the process of sort of undoing the team I currently had as far as my live band and my management, and I wanted to bring more women into my team, so I now have an all-female team on stage and behind the scenes. So that was quite a process last year, but yeah, Courtney was someone that I basically just found online, and yeah, we met and just hit it off straight away, and then we played together, and because she's an all-rounder as well, she plays drums and sings and plays guitar, she's got a really good understanding of music, so we just kind of bounced off each other straight away musically.
So tell me about this all-female band. You obviously decided this was something you wanted to do. What was your reasoning behind that?
Well, I mean, I've been playing in bands for probably the last 20 years, but I've never been in an all-female group.
Wow.
And also, I've only just recently sort of, I guess, come into the music industry. Prior to that, I was just kind of like playing a lot of shows, but not really in the industry side of things. And so being in the industry just for that really short period for 2015, I was just kind of really feeling my politics, my feminist politics weighing pretty heavy on me, that there really aren't that many women around. There's not as many women around as I would like there to be. And I really tossed up for a long time, like, what can I do to change that? And it was a really difficult decision because obviously the people that I had in the band currently were great friends of mine. They all just kind of pulled together at last minute to form a band for me when my music got picked up. So they did me a favour.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was basically about just wanting to see more women in the industry, and that's what I could do to help that.
But that's really cool that you've actually gone out and done something. You know, you've decided, right, how can I actively change this? I mean, is that what needs to happen, do you think?
Well, for me it was. I think for me personally, if I see something that looks like a really big problem, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the fact that the music industry is male-dominated is a part of the patriarchy. But, that's another whole big issue. And I'm not going to tackle that whole thing, and I'm not going to tackle the whole music industry. So I just went really close to home and thought, what's something that I personally can do? So that's what I did.
And I love the idea of, you know, saying, yeah, we're sad. We're girls and we're sad. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you've taken that on board in a specific way on this EP, haven't you? What does it mean for you?
Well, I got the title from an American visual artist named Audrey Wallen, and she takes famous pictures and then reinserts herself in that artwork. But yeah, I guess basically what she's talking about is using sadness, particularly female sadness, as like a form of revolt against the system. So rather than feeling like as women, there's quite a lot of pressure to be happy and presentable and present yourself as a certain way to the world. And I guess her artworks are kind of exploring the idea that you don't have to do that, that not only is it totally fine to be sad sometimes, but that can be used as a way of sort of rejecting the status quo of the system.
This EP that's coming out, you worked with Tim Carr, who worked with Matt
Tim
Corby
Carr.
and Earth Boy. And
yeah.
So did he produce it? Did you get involved in the
We
production?
co-produced, yeah. So when I write, I do demos at home and get quite a lot of production stuff in there because I like to go in knowing that I know what's happening. I don't like to just hand my tracks over to somebody. But he was really easy to work with. Like, we just kind of bounced off each other. I had things that I was pretty definite about, and then he, you know, would add other things that I hadn't thought of, and yeah, so it was just kind of back and forth until we got what was, right.
Well, look, I'm looking forward to seeing what you have coming out next, and really keen to listen to your EP.
Cool, thank you.
For coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.